All right, so I wanted to review just two additional things. And the first is the falling action. So what we see here in after the climax or the turning point where he kills the man and they flee is that in order to tie up these loose ends, something has to happen, right? And in this case, somebody they follow him. Whomever sent those men that attacked Kino, the one man that he killed, um, there now that person is still after the pearl. So at this point, we see an event that we can contribute to the falling action. Okay, and that is where we are introduced to the trackers. And then he saw them moving along. His body stiffened and he drew down his head and peeked out from under a fallen branch. In the distance, he could see three figures, two on foot and one on horseback. He knew who they were, what they were, and a chill of fear went through him. Okay, so he sees these two men that are on foot. These are the men that are the trackers. And then at the very last sentence, behind them on a horse was a dark man, his nose covered with a blanket. And this is the man who seems to be in charge. Okay, this very well could be the man that sent the men, the man that Kino had killed, where it was a point of going back, the climax of the story. Okay, so that's this part. Okay, that's an important event in the falling action. So I'm going to pull this down here. You'll see that I added that here to our falling action. This is our first event of the falling action. How do we start to fix this conflict, this problem with the pearl? The trackers are following Kino and the family for this pearl. Okay. Now, an additional piece that I think is really important in this chapter, and we've seen this before, is how strong, how resilient um, Juana is. Even though Kino's the man, we see that Juana is very much the backbone of this relationship. And not only that, we see in one description of her over here that a very conflicting imagery, or two pieces of imagery that are very opposite. One of Juana being wounded and the other of her joy. So let's take a look at that and see that and think about why. Why would the author do that? So Juana is on guard at the very beginning. This is around page 72. She sat quiet as a stone and her face was quiet. Her mouth was still swollen where Kino had struck her. That was right before when she tried to throw the pearl away into the water. And big flies buzzed around the cut on her chin. Now, this big flies buzzing around the cut on her chin, I don't know about you, but it makes me think of flies buzzing around something that's dead. And I think that imagery is very intentional here. Okay. We see that imagery associated with Kino, and now we're going to see some imagery associated with the baby, Coyotito. She sat as still as a sentinel, which is a guard. When Coyotito awakened, she placed him on the ground in front of her and watched him wave his arms and kick his feet. And he smiled and gurgled at her until she smiled too. So in the very beginning of the story, it said that Coyotito was her only child when she sent for the doctor, or when she said she was going to go to the doctor, and she would do anything for him. And we see that he can make her smile here. And then she picks up a little twig from the ground and she tickles him and she gives him water. So we have these two very different images here. And I think this is on purpose. Kino has caused her so much pain. These things that Kino wants, these are not things that she wants, but she's going along with them because that's part of her culture, is to go with her man, because he's supposed to know best. And yet we've got this conflicting image of her child that is giving her joy. Okay. Over here, I'm going to move myself. Over here, we have toward the end of the chapter, this is 75, where Kino is kind of dumbstruck. He's panicked. He feels helpless. He feels hopeless. And Juana is the one who kind of like snaps him into it. Okay. He says, maybe I should let him take me. And she says, you have the pearl. Do you think that they're going to take you alive? Take you back and be like, oh, look, here's Kino and the pearl of his that we stole. So she's like saying, duh, dummy, I'm not gonna let you live. And then he's worried about the pearl, and she's like, come on, let's go. And when he doesn't move, she says, do you think they're gonna let me live? Do you think they're going to let our baby live? And finally, that gets him into motion. So we see Juana pushing Kino into motion here, her being very like pushing Kino forward. Even though he's supposed to be the man and he's supposed to be in charge, we see her being the driving force here. Okay. All right. And you're all done today. So go ahead and check out our questions in Google Classroom. Bye. And then enjoy the weather today. Supposed to be a hot one.